recognize their credentials, get them doing the jobs and skills that they have, and also the jobs and skills that they need. So we are making progress on this. I'll tell you a little bit more. The Fair Registration Practices Act and the Fairness for Newcomers Office now require that regulated professions and trade registries handle applications clearly and objectively. These bodies must reach at least a temporary decision within 6 months of receiving all necessary information. And the Fairness for Newcomers Office works constantly with regulators to find improvements so that skilled newcomers can get back to doing what they do best. Still, we know that there's more that we need to do. Shortages of essential workers are taking a toll on Alberta's quality of life. This is especially true in the healthcare sector, where just about every area needs more qualified staff. Welcoming more newcomers is key to strengthening the whole system. And that's why we need to continue finding additional pathways to success through things like professional licensing, skills upgrading, and other support programs. We need to tear down any existing barriers that stand in the way of meaningful employment and advancement. I should just mention on this as well, because I'll be meeting with the Philippines Consul General a little bit later today. We signed an MOU on LPNs, licensed practical nurses, and we have a bridging program so that we can recruit people from the Philippines, and if they're short on some of their skills that they need to be able to work in our system, we have a $15,000 grant to be able to bring them up to more ideas like that. You've got lots of ministers in the room. We're ready to act on them. I just want to let you know that we do see some progress, but we do indeed have work to do. Taking these steps is not only right and just, it's a burning necessity. In the midst of a skilled labor shortage, we need to work together to do all that we can to ensure all Albertans are able to work to their full potential. That's why I'm asking for your help. Whether you're a newcomer or you serve our newcomer population, whether you're in the private sector, whether you're at a regulatory body, government needs the benefit of your experiences. You live with the gaps in the system. You see the consequences every day, the frustrations and despair and the crushed hopes. And many of you have spent considerable time thinking about the fixes. Government needs to know how and where we can do better. Effective legislation rests on a foundation of reliable information, and we are looking to you for that. So thank you to everyone for taking part in the summit. Thank you for your advice, thank you for your good judgment. And most of all, thank you for choosing Alberta. We are honored to be part of your community and your new life. More special thanks to generous organizations who do so much to help newcomers adjust. It might be ESL classes, it might be writing resumes, it might be connecting families with affordable housing. You move mountains to ensure newcomers can manage the transition no matter how difficult it may be. Your insights will shape the next wave of solutions that make newcomers' lives better. We're counting on it. And so are the people around the world. People with ambitions searching for a place to make them real, and that's who Albertans are. It's who we are now, and it's who we will be forever. The future of our province depends on the fairness for newcomers, which we believe is a tremendous advantage. Alberta leads the country in growth, and we have many freedoms denied to so many elsewhere on earth. Talented and driven people are lining up to live here, dreaming of big things. Now, it's up to us to figure out how to get more newcomers through the door and into the economy quickly and efficiently, while maintaining our high professional standards. And I look forward to working with all of you on the answers to growing and succeeding together. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. That video always makes me thirsty. It's after 12 o'clock, right? Yes, people always ask me, do you carry booze around in my car? Absolutely. We'll make it in the parking lot. Just joking. Thank you for having me here today. I'm truly honored to be here today. And when I heard about this summit, I was not only excited and fascinated to be invited, but I thought to myself, it's about time we have this conversation. And we have stakeholders and shareholders in the room. I'm just going to put this down, because it is an important topic. And the reason why it's so important to me is that I am a child of immigrants. I'm born and raised in this beautiful city, Calgary, Alberta, but there's a story as to why and how I ended up here, and my brother. And my parents were immigrants to this country. My mom came at 9 years old from India to Vancouver Island, and my dad came at 21 from India to marry my mom. My grandfathers knew each other, and he came to Vancouver Island also. He worked in the sawmills with my grandfather. He came to this country with an engineering degree from one of the top universities in India, but as many as you know, it was unrecognized in the 70s, unfortunately. So after hearing many stories today, it still is. And so after a couple of weeks of working in the sawmills with my grandfather, he decided that was not for him. He'd never done physical labor before and decided he wasn't going to start now. And so he decided that he wanted to become an engineer in this country. And so he applied to every university, and the U of C is the one that gave him admission and 1 year's credit of the degree that he already had. And so my parents ended up here in 1976, and he did 3 years of a new degree, of a mechanical engineering degree at the U of C. And by the time he finished, it was boom time here, and he got a job with what was called Pan-Canadian back then, one of the biggest oil companies in downtown Calgary. And so I came along actually that year. I was born in 1980, so you can do the math as to how old I am. And we had, my brother and I, a very typical middle-class upbringing. My mom, by then, was a stay-at-home mom, and my dad had a good job in the oil sector. And we were born and raised in Northwest Calgary. We really enjoyed what Calgary and Alberta had to offer. Didn't really know many of our extended family because none of my dad's family came from India, and my mom's all stayed on the island. And so when my dad was in the mid-90s, some of you will remember, what goes up does come down in our energy sector, and there was a bust in 93. And my dad was suddenly laid off from Pan-Canadian. I really didn't know as a 13-year-old what was going on, other than the fact that when we left for school in the morning, he was sitting on the sofa, and when we came back, he was sitting on the sofa. And my mom was thoroughly annoyed that he was home all day, because she was not used to having him at home. And so my dad didn't have any other job prospects in the energy sector. And unlike many others, he wasn't willing to move to the Middle East, where there was a lot of jobs in that sector. But lucky for him, weeks into his forced retirement from the oil and gas sector, Premier Ralph Klein, who some of you will remember or heard of for sure, he privatized the retail liquor industry in this province. We are still, to this day, 25 years later and a bit more, the only province that has a completely deregulated system. And it created thousands of entrepreneurs. And my dad was one of them. He opened up OK liquor stores, and not very far from here actually, on 32nd Avenue in Northeast Calgary. And I, like I said, was 13, my brother a year and a half younger than I, and my teenage years was spent mopping floors, stocking shelves, basically doing everything you would do in a family business. We always used to say it couldn't be a convenience store because at least we could enjoy the products we were selling, but it was liquor stores. And little did I know that by osmosis and by being there all the time, I learned a lot, not only about entrepreneurship, about money, about how to run a business, about sales, about HR practices, about a lot of different things. But also what I learned about was the liquor industry. And so when I graduated high school here in Calgary, my mom had sold me the bill of goods, as many people can probably attest to, that I needed to be an engineer myself. Get that corner office, get that healthcare plan, get that pension, all the things that they didn't have as entrepreneurs. And so I was ready, and I was made to be good in math and science. I say made because I have two little girls at home, and I'm making them be good in math and science. And so I was going to be an engineer. I finished my first year at the U of C. It was good, but it was tough. It was definitely tough. And I decided not to take summer classes and work in my parents' stores. And while I was working on the wholesale sales side of their business, I discovered a market niche. And that was a good, fair quality product at a fair everyday price. I wanted to build a company, but also a brand for their stores that was private label, completely unheard of in the early 90s. Late 90s at that point. And so once I did, I convinced my brother. We had what we had in the bank savings, which was about $10,000. And it wasn't much, but it got us started. Because while no bank would give me a loan, and there was no such thing as VCs at that time. And so when we started, we really thought that it would be a hobby. It would be something that we made some extra money on the side. And well, as things started to grow, not only in my parents' stores, but we sold to the other 1,100 liquor stores in this province, we discovered that there was a bigger market for us to exploit and for us to make our mark in. And so, not only when we were beginning out, but definitely now, 23 years later as an entrepreneur, I have discovered that it is important for all of us to have people around us that support us, mentors that not only guide us, who are an ear to listen to us, a brain to pick, and a push in the right direction. We all need it. And we all need to be there for each other also. We need to give and receive mentorship. I truly believe in not only having mentors, and I still do in my personal life and my professional life, and they change as my needs change. When I started, as I said, I was single, living at home, definitely on the personal side, didn't have many needs as I do now, as a mother of two, a wife, and many other roles in my personal life, but also in the professional side. It was just me and my brother when we started, and now we have over 1,000 employees in 16 different countries. And so it is something that none of us do it on our own. I get asked a lot, how do you wear so many hats? And well, the answer is I don't wear them all by myself. I actually have a lot of help and a lot of people beside me that are helping me, not only at home, but also at the office, and also for myself, discovering and exploring new opportunities. A lot of people pushing me to new tables. That's how I get involved in a lot of things, not only in the community, but also that are important to me. And I truly believe that we all need to mentor each other. We all need feedback. We all need people to help us set goals, help us network, but also help us not make the same mistakes that they have made. I tend to mentor a lot of young ethnic women who are trying to break their glass ceilings, start their businesses, or find their career paths. Because without mentors, I definitely wouldn't be here today. And I truly believe that all great leaders, they don't create followers, they create more leaders. And so we are all great leaders in this room for a variety of different reasons. So I would really ask you to reach out to those who are looking to come up in your industry, who are maybe fledgling, who are looking for some guidance. We all have something to offer. Many of us don't think that we do, but we all do. But most importantly, you'll discover when you also give mentorship, you receive a lot back on the other end. I see a lot of heads nodding. And only until you take the time and energy to do that will you discover that. I truly believe that Alberta has the Alberta advantage. I get asked a lot, including a couple times actually, yes. And not only for entrepreneurs like myself, but for newcomers. There's a reason why my parents came here and stayed here. There's a reason why I choose to live here and raise my family here. I get asked a lot, why don't you live in LA or Chicago or Barbados where we have a rum distillery? Sure, the weather might be nicer there, but there is a real reason, and I purposely, consciously stay in Calgary and in Alberta and are involved in this community. Not only is there opportunity here, there is diversity here in so many different ways. It is a great, big, small province, and I think you all know. I think you all know what I mean, great, big, and small. Small enough that we don't have traffic jams, but big enough that we have a hockey team. It means a lot. But it also is a place, like I say, that there is opportunity. It is a meritocracy. You can do what you want to do and what you can dream of doing. I believe that we all need to have dreams, but we need to be doers at the same time. And so my dad taught me a very valuable life lesson when I was young, was that life isn't fair. And unfortunately isn't fair. It isn't fair if you're a newcomer. It isn't fair even if you're born and raised here, let me tell you. It is unfair, unfortunately, but we have to use those unfair advantages as advantages. No matter what I do, I am a young brown woman in the alcohol industry. And so why not use those to my advantages? The first couple years of being an entrepreneur, I definitely, like many others, was really not happy. I yelled and screamed and cried. I did a lot of things behind closed doors. But one thing it did build me was a tough skin. But also it fueled me. I decided that I was going to succeed one way or another in this industry. And so the things that I couldn't change or control, I've discovered that I am going to leave those alone and only try to control what is in my hands. And I think that we all need to do that. As in the video, you saw that we got into the hand sanitizer business when we were asked to, actually, by a different government. It wasn't by the Alberta government, but we got involved. And we didn't think that we knew what we were doing, but we knew that we wanted to help our community. And before we knew it, we made 74 million bottles of hand sanitizer for this country. And we stopped producing alcohol. We stopped producing alcohol at 3 of our 7 plants because we knew our community needed us. We knew we wouldn't be the best at what we were going to do, but we were going to do it to the best of our ability. And we were going to ask for help. And I can't tell you how many key people came and actually answered my call, because I personally was making the call, and looking for mentors, essentially, to say, how do you guys do it in the healthcare business? And so I really do think that there is not only opportunity here, but there is opportunity if you seek it out. And so I think entrepreneurs have a very unique opportunity. Not only do we call ourselves, jokingly but truly, the United Nations, it's because our HR department actually looks at somebody's CV and says, what is their potential? Not only what have they not done in the past, but what is their potential? What is our needs, and what could we train them to do? What perspectives can they bring to us? And so whether or not they worked in the alcohol industry, actually I prefer when they haven't worked in the alcohol industry. We prefer if they worked in any beverage, whether they, in a different part of the world done dairy or soda or anything else, because they have a lot to offer us. It's usually a different perspective and a different skill set, but within what we are looking for, even within sales, for example. And so I really always want to encourage entrepreneurs, especially, to look outside of their box, to push their HR departments to say, what is the potential of the people at your door? Don't maybe look at just what they've done in the past. We all do have to work together often to get our own advantages. And we can do that with the humans at the door. And we can invest in their talents and skills. They won't stay with you forever, but that is not a bad thing. That is something that you can train them and send them out into the world with. So I really do believe that entrepreneurs have a lot more sway than they think they have. I think a lot of people put it on governments always to make the change and make the difference, but that's not always necessarily the case. As entrepreneurs, we can do that too in very different ways, but in meaningful ways. And I haven't been given much time, unfortunately, today. I could talk for a very long time about my own stories, but I do want to say that we all have to have the courage to succeed, no matter where we are and what we want to accomplish. I think it's really important to understand that having courage doesn't mean that you don't get afraid. Trust me, I get afraid a lot, but I push through the fear. And I think that newcomers are really good at that and can provide a lot of different perspectives, but also help us as a community to help us push through the fear. They've come to a new country, often without knowing anybody and really knowing what they're getting themselves into, especially when they arrive in the winter. But it is about having courage and choosing courage over comfort. And many of us have to do that when we are taking a risk, not only in our jobs, our careers, but also in our businesses. Many of us just don't do one thing anymore. And so it's important that we all teach each other to have courage and that we have confidence. And having confidence also doesn't mean that you're always going to be right. One day I will write a very long book. I've been asked to already, but I will find the time and I will. A very long book of all the failures that I have had the last 2.5 decades in order to get to where I am. And I truly believe that failures is a part of the success story. It is not the opposite of success. And I do think that all of us need to understand that too, is that anybody's story, unfortunately when people see my story on TV, they think that it was a straight line that I started yesterday. I've been at this a long time. I feel like I'm 70, not 42. But I've had a lot of challenges too along the way. It's just that I don't focus on them. I'm a truly optimistic person no matter what is going on. I'm a realist, no doubt about it, but I am an optimistic person. And I truly believe that all of us need to be, not only to wake up and deal with the challenges of the day, but also to understand that it helps us build confidence and help those around us. My last closing thought today on success is going to be for all of us, no matter where we are from, what we are trying to do. There is no elevator to success. We have to take the stairs. Thank you.